All right, welcome back, guys. We are jumping back into our course here and into what is machine vision. We talked a little bit last time about what we're going to cover over the course of all of these videos. So right now I want to jump in and talk about what we do with machine vision and how it gets used most often. So there's a lot of ways to use machine vision. You can use it for part verification. You can use it for surface finishes, for measurements, to make sure you have all the pieces of a part there, to make sure you have all the holes that are supposed to be there. So there's lots of different things. So I want to show you a few parts, and we'll talk about different things that we may look at with each of those parts to give you a little flavor of what we can do. So, if we start and we look at just presence-absence detection, right? So we're looking at this little plate here. I've got a bunch of holes. I want to make sure that those holes are all present, right? Really simple application. That's something that I would do with maybe a vision sensor. Now, if I wanted to make sure that all the holes are present, but I also want to verify the size of each of the holes, make sure they're all the exact same size, right? That may be a slightly higher end camera, right? Still 2D vision. We'll go through and we'll do a count to make sure all the holes are the correct size and I have the correct number of them. So that would be presence-absence verification, right? I can make sure that I have the whole plate here so that I've got everything in here that I need to be able to see. I can make sure that I have the two little dips on the bottom corner here to make sure that those are present because they should be there based on the tooling, right? Any number of things. Is it there? Is it not? That's what a lot of smart cameras and maybe even smart sensors are really good at checking. Okay? Now if we do some kind of measurement. So if we wanted to do measurement and measure maybe the distance between the opening surfaces on the box end wrench, and then also be able to check the hex end of it to verify that it's the same size, right? It's the correct size, it's the same size, I've got the correct shape all the way around the part. Right? That's a great solution for machine vision. That can be done either in 2D or in 3D. In 3D, we have the added advantage that if we check it on a conveyor or on a plate, we can also check the thickness of the entire part. It's a really fantastic way to be able to look at your parts and see, do I have good quality or do I not? On these, you can also check for surface finish or surface color. So you can check to make sure you have no major dents or scratches, or that you don't have a pitted region or a miscolored region, or if you're anodizing, to make sure that you have the anodizing covering the entire part, right? So that would be one thing to look at on a part like this. We will often use machine vision on plastic parts and stamped parts. They both kind of fall into the same category, right? So we're looking here for to make sure that we have the correct amount of plastic all the way around the edge, to make sure that we don't have any extra flash coming off the edge of this hole, to make sure this hole is present, and to make sure that it's round. We can make sure that the opening in the bottom is correct. The other thing that gets really interesting when you start looking at plastic parts is oftentimes they will have text or symbols that are built into them. And so using the right lighting techniques, and we'll talk about those in a couple modules, right? We can highlight. There's a little bit of writing right here and a symbol right here on the part. So those are all things that we can look at. There's surface blemishes, there's OCR built into there, there's flash built into that. So those are a few applications. One other one I want to take a look at a second here is if we look at bottles and caps, right? So one thing that's really interesting is you can take and look at the cap on these to make sure that it's flat, to make sure that you have it all the way on and it's correct. Because every once in a while they'll pop off just a little bit. They're just not quite there, right? And they're just a little bit up, and it's difficult to see. These travel at a pretty good rate down the manufacturing line, and so it's difficult for the operator to pick up. The other things that we can look at on here, do we have the right label? We can use OCR to look at the text on the bottle to make sure that the label matches what the machine thinks it's putting inside the bottle, right? So there's tons of verification to do there. And those same text and OCR verification tools and shape tools and measurement tools can be used across a wide array of applications. And so it can get really interesting. You can do almost anything that you want to do. Sometimes you have to use some higher end tools, and that makes it a little bit more interesting, but that's part of what we're here to help with. So if you run into those applications, give us a call. We can help walk through it with you and work with you to get through your application. But for most applications, that's what you're going to be looking for: surface finish, presence absence, some measurements, maybe thickness, and obviously there's so many more applications. There's lots of other stuff that we can do with vision, but I want to cover the basics here to give you at least enough to be able to ask some questions. As you're working with an integrator or a distributor, you want to be able to ask the right questions so that you can get good information and good answers from them, so that you can correctly specify your system, right? So what kind of questions would you maybe want to ask on a presence absence verification, right? So if we're talking presence absence, you want to be able to ask, how small of a hole can I find? How small of a defect can I find? Is there a maximum number of counts? Is there a maximum number of tools that can be used, right? So these all come into play. If you're talking about looking at something with a label on it, you want to ask about OCR and barcode reading capability. If you're looking at measurements and being able to verify measurements, you're going to want to look at what the resolution of the camera is, whether or not it can do subpixel imaging, how closely it can measure, and what is the repeatability of the system. And your distributor may not have all of those answers. Your integrator may not have all of those answers. In a lot of cases, you may have to test to be able to get all of the answers that you're looking for, and that's okay. A big part of the machine vision process is testing. So we've gone over some of the common uses. Obviously, there's more. We're going to step into next some of the technologies that we use, and different cameras that are out there, different types of cameras, different types of data that we're going to step through. So stay tuned. Look for the next module to come at you. In the meantime, if you have questions, if you want clarification, or if you just want to know a little bit more about the topic, give us a call, and we'd be happy to help you. I love stepping through new applications. I love being able to look at a problem and help you understand and learn, what questions do I need to ask, what information do I need to know, and how do I make this work? So we'll see you next time. I really hope that you enjoyed this and that you will stick around for the technologies module. It's going to be a fun one.